Students of Standard 10, let us start with plant physiology today. We have to complete plant physiology and animal physiology. We'll start with plant physiology. Let me tell you what is physiology. It is biology which deals with life functions of a plant. All the life functions of a plant is with the branch which deals with all the life functions of the plant is called as physiology. Now, if it is in plants, we call it as plant physiology. So this includes the functioning of our cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and organism as a whole. Now we are going to start with this chapter which deals with some fundamental processes. Now, as plant has different processes like osmosis, diffusion, then guttation, transpiration, photosynthesis, all these are physiological processes in plants. So let us start with plant physiology, that is osmosis, which is already explained in the form of absorption by roots. Now, what is a root? That is a part of the plant that grows under the soil, away from light, geotrophic in nature, is called as a root. Now, root has different parts. Let me explain you. The main root or the primary root, it has side branches which arise from the main root. They are called as the lateral roots. And on the lateral roots, there are still small hair-like structures. You can see there in the figure. They are called as the root hairs. Now, let me tell you what is the function of the primary root or the main root. The primary root which you see over here, the primary root fixes the plant firmly in the soil. The lateral roots and the root hairs, they help in absorbing water and minerals from the soil. And then, as we all know, there is a conducting tissues in plants. The main conducting tissue is called as the xylem, which conducts water and minerals from the roots to different parts of the plant. And phloem conducts the prepared food from the leaves to various parts of the plant. So here, these roots, the lateral roots and the root hairs, they absorb water and minerals from the soil and conduct them into the aerial parts of the plant. The aerial part is just above the soil, which is phototrophic in nature. They have enormous surface area. Now, each root, that is the lateral root, has a number of root hairs. Now, they increase the surface area of the roots. And these root hairs, they help in absorbing water from the soil. The root hairs are unicellular. They're made up of, they're extensions of single cell, and each cell contains cell sap. That is a vacuole. Vacuole is filled with cell sap. Now, roots are able to absorb water because the cell sap is concentrated inside the cell, inside the root hair cell. If it is concentrated, then it can absorb water from the surrounding soil. Because vacuoles have higher concentration, cell sap is of hyper concentration, surrounding water is hypotonic, less concentrated, so the water from the soil enters into a hypertonic medium inside the cell. Next point is root hairs have thin walls. They're made up of single cell, I told you. The cell wall of the root hair is very thin. Because it is thin and permeable, water molecules can easily move into the cell from the surrounding soil. Now, the cell membrane next to the cell wall is the cell membrane. That is also very thin. But as we all know, cell membranes are semi-permeable. That allows water to pass through it. But that too, the larger molecules of the dissolved salts cannot enter, but the dissolved particles, mineral salts present in the soil along with water enters into the cell of the root hair. Now, Let me concentrate on the picture over here. You can see the figure, a unicell, a single cell, which is extension, whose extension is this root hair. Now let us see this large structure, spacious structure which you see here, that is called as the vacuole. This vacuole, that is a vacuole. Again, another labeling is here called as vacuole. So we all know plant cells have large vacuoles. You can see the labeling is the epidermal cell, next to it also an epidermal cell. The next cell wall, outer layer, second layer cell membrane, then the nucleus. In this way you can find a number of root hairs. This is the largest root hair, grown root hair is shown here, picture. Now how the water enters into the xylem vessels in the stem. The root hair is having, I told you there are, I already mentioned 3 points. One is concentrated cell sap, unicellular. So because the cell sap is concentrated, water from the surrounding soil is entering here. Then it passes into the next adjacent cell, which are called as the cells of the cortex. The next layer next to it is the cortex. It enters into the cells of the cortex. Then it passes into the endodermis. There is a layer over here which is called as the endodermis, which encircles the vascular bundles. The vascular bundles are xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem are clearly shown over here. Then the next to endodermis, another layer is there called the pericycle. Now the water from the soil passes through the root hair, enters the cortical cells, passes through the endodermis, then through the pericycle, and then enters into the xylem vessels. From the xylem vessels, it is conducted into the plant body. Water from the soil up to the xylem vessels. Now, let's concentrate on the next topic, that is imbibition. What is imbibition? Imbibition is a phenomenon in which the living or the dead cells absorb water by surface attraction. Now, as we all know, plant cells are made up of cell wall. Outermost layer of the plant cell is cell wall, which is made up of cellulose and proteins. They are hydrophilic, that means they have large affinity to absorb water. They attract water towards themselves, they absorb water. That means as they absorb water, they imbibe, they swell. And this is seen in case of dry seeds, wooden doors, because during rainy season you find difficult to close wooden doors and windows because they imbibe the moisture present in the surrounding and they swell. That is called as imbibition. And on contact with the water, or if they are exposed to moisture, they swell. You can see the picture over here of the seed. I had given a picture of a seed over here. After imbibing water, how it is swelling. You can see the cotyledon which is present there, and epicotyle, radicle, and hypocotyle and all are seen there, and the seed coat, endosperm is there, which is a storage layer. Aileron layer is maize grain is shown here. Aileron layer is a layer which is already surrounding the endosperm. That means it has absorbed water and ready to develop into a seedling. Next topic is diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Now, from a region of higher to region of lower, it is seen in case of gases and liquids. You can't find diffusion in case of solids. You can see a diagram given at the base. In a beaker, a few potassium permanganate crystals are added. Potassium permanganate violet color crystals, they are added to a beaker containing water. Now as they dissolve, they disperse between the water molecules. The spaces between the water molecules they occupy. So they change the color of the water as they're dispersing. The whole liquid after a few minutes it changes into pink or purple color, because diffusion is the movement of molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. They're dispersing. This is called as diffusion. Even one more example I'll give you. If you spray perfume in one corner of the room, you can feel the smell in other corner of the room. This is also an example of diffusion. Next is osmosis, the main topic. What is osmosis? Now it is similar, mostly similar to diffusion, but there is a small difference over here, a semi-permeable membrane. Osmosis is the movement of solvent molecules, that is water molecules, from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, passing through a semi-permeable membrane. Here it requires a semi-permeable membrane. We all know that plant cells have semi-permeable membrane in their cells, that is the plasma membrane, second layer. So soil molecules, they are entering into the roots because of this semi-permeable membrane and this concentrated cell site. Now this osmosis is shown over here, and higher concentration, you can see the red dots are sugar molecules, blue dots are water molecules over here. Now where here sugar molecules are more, sugar molecules are solute molecules, water molecules are solvent molecules. Solvent molecules are moving from a region of higher concentration, that is towards your left, towards your and it's moving towards your right. There is an arrow also given there, from a region of higher to a region of lower concentration, which is separated by a semi-permeable membrane. This is called as osmosis. Now this osmosis is explained under two terms, endosmosis and exosmosis. If there is inward diffusion of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane, is called as endosmosis. If there is outward diffusion of water molecules in the presence of semi-permeable membrane, is called as exosmosis. Inward movement endosmosis, outward movement of solvent molecules is exosmosis. Next, here is a short experiment to demonstrate osmosis. Let us take a potato tuber, peel off the skin of the potato, slice it off so that the base is flat, and scoop the inner part of the potato to form a cup-shaped structure. You add sucrose solution, 20% sucrose solution into the cup-shaped structure. Sucrose solution is added into the cup-shaped structure in the center. Now mark the level of the sucrose solution with a pin slowly. Don't pierce it tightly, so that if you're piercing it tightly, it will form a hole. Now you mark the level with a pin, and now slowly add water into this beaker. After few minutes, you will see that the level of the sucrose solution increases above the marked pin level. Why? Because sucrose solution inside is hypertonic, outside water is hypotonic. So solvent molecules are more outside the potato tuber. So they move from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration, that is higher to lower. It enters inside because solvent molecules are less inside the potato tuber. It increases the level of sucrose solution inside the potato tuber. This is called as potato tuber osmoscope to demonstrate osmosis clearly. Let's concentrate on the next topic, that is turgidity. Turgidity is, meaning of turgidity is a turgid cell. We say turgid cell means a cell which is a fully distended condition. Fully distended condition which is under high pressure. When the cell is under high pressure, we call it as a turgid cell. That means the water present in the cell is applying pressure on the cell contents present inside the cell, is applying pressure on the wall. We call it as a turgid cell. Now the outward pressure exerted on the cell wall by the cell contents or the cell sap is called as turgor pressure. Now the cells, if they are flaccid, immediately what they do, they absorb water from the soil and they become turgid. Then they pass the water from that one turgid cell to the next turgid cell, and then that cell becomes flaccid and the next turgid cell becomes turgid and the next cell becomes turgid. So in this way the water moves from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant. Now what is the importance of this turgidity? Let's see. It helps in the initial growth of the plants. It helps in opening and closing of stomata. It helps to maintain the shape of the plant body, and also some movements are caused due to turgor pressure. Now if you touch a Mimosa pudica plant, we call it as touch me not plant. Once you touch, it droops all its leaves. The drooping of the leaves of Mimosa pudica is only due to loss of turgor pressure. As soon as you touch it, from the petiole layer, the base of the leaflets, it loses the water. The moment it loses water, it starts drooping. Even the sunflower moves towards the sun during the daytime is also an example of Turger movement. Now next topic is flaccidity, just the opposite of turgidity. When the cell is no more in a state of tension, we call it as a flaccid cell. That means when the cell loses water, then it becomes a sunken cell. Such a shrunken cell is called as a flaccid cell. Now when the cell is no more in a state of tension is called as a flaccid cell, and such a condition is called as the next topic is plasmolysis. The shrinkage of protoplasm, that means the cytoplasm present in the cell, when it shrinks. When does it shrink? When we place a cell in a hypertonic medium, concentrated medium, then the cell automatically, the contents, they shrink. That is, from the cell membrane it starts shrinking. Now such a process is called as plasmolysis. Now I'll give you an example. Let we store pickles for a long period of time because we add salt or sugar to it, where it increases the concentration of that medium and it becomes concentrated. As it becomes concentrated, outside bacteria cannot enter into that medium. Bacteria present inside, bacteria is present everywhere. Bacteria present in the pickles also gets plasmolized. So you can store pickles for a long period of time. Even salting of fish, salted fish also does not get spoiled because it becomes hypertonic. That means it undergoes plasmolysis. The condition, the salt creates a hypertonic medium. Now to the tennis lawns, if you are sprinkling grass on tennis lawns, that also all the weeds present in it, they get plasmolized and the grass doesn't grow there. Even gargling with salt water helps us to avoid throat infection. Doctors advise us to gargle with salt water because the bacteria which creates this infection in the throat, which causes throat pain, if it gets plasmolized, then you will be free from throat infections. Now initially when it starts plasmolizing, we call it as incipient plasmolysis. When this incipient plasmolysis continues and later it completely undergoes plasmolysis, because see, the cell membrane is completely shrinking towards the center. It is being driven from the cell wall and it has formed a you can see it clearly here. From the cell wall it is detached and it has formed a mass over here. We call such a cell as a plasmolized cell. Now just the opposite of a plasmolysis is deplasmolysis. Same thing, when you place a plasmolized cell again in water in a hypotonic solution, it regains its turgidity. Such a process is called as deplasmolysis. Now the next, what is active transport? Now you can see that plants keep absorbing water continuously from the soil. Now suppose plant is utilizing some energy to absorb water from the soil. We call it as active absorption, and transport also is the same thing. Actively, when it is transporting water, utilizing some energy, we call it as active transport. Same way, passive absorption is also, normally when the plant is absorbing water, we call it as passive absorption, and when it is transporting water molecules from a region of higher to lower concentration, we call it as passive transport, where no energy is utilized. It is also explained in the form of two differences, passive and active transport. You can refer that. You can see in this figure again over here, the cellulose cell wall is made up of cellulose, and the next adjacent cell, you can see it is already absorbing the water and minerals from the soil. Now it will move from this cell to the next adjacent cell. When this cell becomes flaccid, after absorbing, this cell becomes turgid. Again the next adjacent becomes turgid once again. In this way the water moves from the soil to different parts of the plant body, or to the aerial parts of the plant body. Next, what is root pressure? Now, the pressure exerted by the cortical cells of the root, I had explained you in the beginning, after the root hair, there is a cortex region, cortical cells of the root, to push the water to the aerial parts of the plant, to force the water to the aerial parts of the plant to the xylem vessels, is called as root pressure. Now this is movement of water is ascent of sap. So when there is pressure exerted by the cortical cells of the root to allow this movement of water to the aerial parts of the plant is called as root pressure. So due to root pressure, there is a suction created in the stem, then through which it enters into the leaves. Is explained by a short experiment. This is very important experiment for standard 10 students. This experiment is a board question experiment. This is, you can see a plant, a stem of the plant is intact, well watered potted plant is shown there. Stem is intact, but the rest of the part is cut off. Now that is being attached to a rubber tubing over here. Then rubber tubing is attached to a glass tube containing glass tube in which liquid water is there, and then mercury manometer. It is connected to this mercury manometer. Now, because why did I tell you well watered potted plant? If it is well watered, it will absorb water. So as it is absorbing water, as the root is absorbing water, it will push it to the, due to root pressure, it will move to the aerial parts. As it moves to the aerial parts, it will apply pressure on this water column, extruded water column. From this water will apply pressure on the mercury level, and the mercury level in the manometer will increase. This shows that the root pressure is created in the plant body. So this is also root pressure and ascent of sap. Ascent of sap is taking place. Now upward movement of water from the roots to the aerial parts of the plant is called as ascent of sap. Now what are the forces responsible for the ascent of sap? Forces responsible is, one is root pressure, is responsible for ascent of sap, allows the water to move to the aerial parts. Second is capillarity. Capillarity means when the water is moving through the narrow bore, xylem vessels form the narrow bore in the plant body. If the water is moving through a narrow bore, we call it as capillarity. That is also a force responsible for ascent of sap. Now, when there is no more water in the leaves during hot summer, when there is no water on the leaf surface continuously gets transpired. So what happens? Leaf surface gets transpired, then the water is exerted from the stem, which is called as the pull exerted due to transpiration is called as transpiration pull. The loss of water from the aerial parts of the plant body is called as transpiration, but in the form of water vapor is called transpiration. So due to transpiration, the pull is exerted by the plant body, we call it as transpiration pull. This transpiration pull also is responsible for this ascent of sap. It also allows the water to move to the aerial parts of the plant body. Now there are two terms shown here. One is cohesion and other one is adhesion. Now there are questions asked on what is cohesive force and what is adhesive force. Cohesion means if there is a force of attraction between two water molecules. Two water molecules, if one water molecule is attracting other water molecule and allowing it to move through the xylem vessels, like molecules, if they are attracted together, we call it as force of cohesion or cohesive force. Adhesion is the force of attraction between water molecules and the xylem vessel through which it sticks and moves to the aerial parts. So between two molecules which are not same, different molecules is called as different surfaces, water molecule and the xylem vessel, is called, the force of attraction between them is called as force of adhesion or adhesive force. Now this is if you have any doubts, we'll clear later on. Now if you want, again please watch it, try to understand the topic. Thank you students.